The prison corridor smelled of damp concrete, rust, and something older, fear soaked into the walls over decades. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, each drop echoing like a ticking clock. Victor walked with steady steps, wrists aching from the cuffs, shoulders relaxed on purpose. The guard behind him shoved lightly, not out of anger, but habit, routine violence, the most honest kind. The iron door ahead creaked open with a sound that clawed at nerves. Victor knew where he was being taken. This wasn't a regular holding cell. This was a press cell, the kind that didn't exist on paper but lived in every detention center, a place where men were broken quietly, efficiently, without cameras or reports, where confessions appeared by morning and bruises were explained as falls. The door slammed shut behind him. The sound was final. Cell 102. Victor paused just inside the threshold. He didn't rush in, didn't hesitate either. 35 years old, lean, sinewy, built not for show but for endurance. His gray eyes adjusted instantly, scanning the room the way they had once scanned doorways in foreign cities before explosions and gunfire. 4 men were already inside. The cell was meant for 6, but even with 4 bodies it felt cramped. 2-tiered bunks lined the walls. A heavy wooden table was bolted to the floor. In the corner, a toilet hidden behind a stained curtain gave off a sour stench. The air was thick with cheap tobacco smoke, sweat, and damp clothes that never fully dried. On the lower bunk to the right lay the one that mattered. Fers. Early 30s, thick neck, swollen face, tattoos crawling over his fingers like black rings. He lay sprawled as if the cell belonged to him, rolling prayer beads made from breadcrumbs between his fingers. His eyes were cold, lazy, measuring. This was the watcher, the unofficial authority, not appointed, not elected, simply accepted. Beside him sat a thin man with a sharp nose and twitchy movements. His eyes never stopped moving, a predator's eyes. Victor marked him instantly as dangerous. This one enjoyed pain. At the table sat 2 more, broad-shouldered, heavy-handed men playing cards, bulls, muscle. They stopped the moment Victor entered. The cards went face down. Silence spread through the cell like oil. Victor felt it, the moment when a man's fate was decided. He had felt it before, in other places, under other skies, the second when strangers judged whether you were meat or threat. A week ago, his life was simple. Head of security at a small logistics firm, weekends at the dacha, the smell of grilled meat, his 5-year-old daughter laughing as she chased insects through tall grass, his wife teasing him for always sitting with his back to the wall. Then came the night. 2 men, knives, masks, a broken door. Victor hadn't thought, he had reacted. Years in spetsnaz didn't fade. They slept under the skin, waiting. He moved fast, too fast. The fight was over before it fully began. 2 bodies on his kitchen floor. Now the state needed a culprit. Article 105, Part 1, Murder. The investigator had looked at him with thinly veiled disgust. "You kill too well," he'd said. "That's a problem, Citizen Smirnov." Victor set his small prison bag on the floor. No sudden movements, no submissive slump. He straightened and looked directly at Fers. His face showed nothing. No fear, no challenge, just calm. Fers finally spoke, his voice rough from cigarettes and authority. "Well, who are you, newcomer? What's your charge?" "Victor," he answered evenly. 105. The thin man snorted and spat on the floor. "Murderer? Doesn't look like one." Fers waved him silent without turning his head. He sat up slowly, dangling his legs over the bunk. "And in life, who were you out there?" "Worked," Victor said. Fers smiled crookedly. "Everyone worked, different jobs." He leaned forward slightly. "They say you wore shoulder boards, military." Victor knew the administration had already fed him his file. Lying would be useless. "I served," he said. "Spetsnaz." The cell reacted instantly. One of the card players stiffened. The thin man's smile faded. Military wasn't neutral here. It was hostile, a symbol of the system, of force, of control. Fers's expression soured. "So a hero ended up with thieves." Victor said nothing. Fers nodded toward the toilet corner. "That's your place, floor. If you want peace, you pay. We have rules here." Victor listened, calculating distances, angles, bodies, the narrow passage between bunks, the table, the door. Then he spoke. "I hear you," he said quietly, "but I have another option." Fers raised an eyebrow, and just like that, the game began. Fers didn't answer right away. He studied Victor the way gamblers study a deck that feels wrong in their hands. Too calm, too still. New arrivals were supposed to fidget, glance around, breathe too fast. This one stood like he had already accepted whatever came next, and that was never a good sign. Nail broke the silence first. "Another option?" he chuckled, teeth yellow, voice thin. "You hear that, Fers? Soldier wants choices." Quiet laughter followed. Not loud, controlled, the kind meant to show unity. Fers slowly got to his feet. He wasn't tall, but he was wide, solid in the way men become when others do their violence for them. "You're in the wrong place for options," he said calmly. "Here, people listen, or they suffer." Victor met his eyes. "No," he said. "Here, people pretend." The words landed heavier than shouting ever could. Fers's jaw tightened. Losing control in front of his people was dangerous. Letting it slide was worse. "You see that corner?" Fers nodded toward the toilet again. "That's mercy. You don't take it. Things get unpleasant." Victor took a slow breath. "I'll sleep on the free bunk," he said. "I won't pay, and nobody owns me." Then he moved. Not fast, not aggressively. He simply walked past Fers, close enough that Fers instinctively pulled his legs in and stopped at the empty lower bunk opposite the watcher, the best place in the cell, the place no one touched without permission. Victor placed his bag on the mattress and sat down. The cell froze. This wasn't disrespect. This was war. Nail stood up so abruptly his stool scraped loudly against the floor. "You've got no idea where you are," he hissed. Victor didn't look at him. Fers felt it then, the shift. Authority was fragile, built on illusion, and illusion shattered fast. Fers said quietly, "explain." Nail smiled. His hand dipped into his sleeve. Metal flashed. A sharpened aluminum spoon slid into his grip, wrapped tight with blue tape. Crude, effective, prison-made. Perfect for eyes, throat, kidneys. He stepped forward. Victor moved first. There was no hesitation, no build-up. His body reacted before thought could catch up. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, caught Nail's wrist and twisted hard. Bone cracked. The shiv clattered across the concrete. Victor drove his shoulder into Nail's chest, slamming him back into the table, a knee to the ribs, an elbow to the jaw. Nail went down choking, gasping like a fish on dry land. The two bulls rushed in. That was their mistake. The narrow space betrayed them. They collided, tangled, blocked each other. Victor grabbed the nearest one, smashed his face into the table, then pivoted and drove an elbow straight into the second man's throat. It was over before it had truly begun. 3 men lay on the floor, groaning, bleeding, alive, but broken enough to remember. Victor straightened slowly. Fers hadn't moved. Blood dripped from the table onto the floor, each drop loud in the silence. Victor looked at the watcher. "I don't want trouble," he said calmly, "but I won't live like an animal." Fers stared back, breathing heavy. The rules of Cell 102 had just changed. Fers stayed where he was, standing near his bunk, hands relaxed at his sides. He didn't rush to help his people. That alone told Victor everything. A real leader knew when a fight was already lost. The cell breathed again, slow, uneven breaths. Nail lay curled on the floor, clutching his ribs, eyes wide with disbelief. One of the bulls groaned softly, blood leaking from his nose onto the concrete. The other tried to sit up, failed, and stayed down. Victor bent, picked up the shiv with 2 fingers and looked at it for a second. Then he walked to the toilet corner and dropped it into the bucket. Metal rang dully. "No knives," Victor said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Not with me." Fers finally spoke. "You're not who they said you were," he muttered. "They said enough," Victor replied. Fers studied him again, this time without mockery, without the lazy arrogance. Now there was calculation, respect, even if he hated it. "You could have killed Nail," Fers said. "I know. I chose not to." That answer weighed more than any threat. Fers exhaled slowly and raised his hand, palm down, a signal. The bull stopped trying to get up. Nail stayed where he was, swallowing hard. "Cell's not yours," Fers said carefully, "and it's not mine either." "Good, then we understand each other." A long pause followed. Finally, Fers pointed at the lower bunk Victor had claimed. "You keep it. No one bothers you. No taxes." "And?" Victor asked. "And," Fers continued, voice tight, "and you don't interfere with how we live. You don't preach. You don't run the cell." Victor considered that. "I don't want to run anything. I want silence, sleep, and no one touching my things." Fers nodded once. A deal. One of the bulls slowly dragged Nail onto a bunk. No one spoke. The hierarchy had been rewritten without a meeting, without votes. Violence had settled it, as it always did. That night, cell 1002 was quieter than it had been in months. Victor lay on his bunk, staring at the underside of the mattress above him. The light from the corridor slipped through the door slot, cutting a pale line across the ceiling. Somewhere down the block, someone screamed. Somewhere else, a guard laughed. He didn't sleep much. Old habits. He listened instead, to footsteps, to breathing, to the small sounds that warned of danger. No one came. Over the next days, word spread, not loudly, not openly. In prison, news moved through glances, through pauses in conversation, through who sat where and who didn't speak anymore. Cell 1002 stopped being a press cell. New arrivals weren't pushed there. Those who came left untouched. Fers kept his status, but it was different now, balanced, restrained. Nail avoided Victor's eyes completely. Victor didn't assert himself, didn't threaten, didn't dominate. He simply existed. And that was enough, because everyone in cell 1002 understood one thing. Victor wasn't looking for power. He wasn't playing prison games. He was a man who had already survived worse places, and he would survive this one too.